Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and good afternoon. How is everybody doing today? I went with an ominous title for this afternoon's live stream because I'm kicking around doing something that may be a really bad idea, and I want to talk to you guys about it and just kind of brainstorm with you a little bit if you're so inclined. This is not like big news or anything. This is a thing that I've been kicking around for a while, but I've been thinking, I thought about this all day yesterday. I had a trip to Texas. I had an 8.5-hour drive yesterday, and the whole way back, this is all I could think about. I was really preoccupied by it, and I didn't want to just like flat out pull the trigger on it because I've got some different ideas about how to go about it, and I don't know, I just wanted to feel you guys out a little bit. I put out a poll a few weeks ago suggesting maybe doing something like this. I said, do you guys want to see me continue doing story analysis, superhero rewind unscripted the way I have been, or should I focus on commentaries? Because there's been, we've been doing a lot of commentaries lately. There's usually a decent amount of interest in those. I really love doing them, and it's been a major part of the channel going all the way, almost all the way back, really. And and this is a thing I've thought about for a long time, trying to decide whether it makes sense to continue on with the, with just the off-the-cuff reviews, or to streamline it a little bit, kind of give myself more of a, specific format in just doing a commentary where I'm limited a little bit. I can't go all night long, and most importantly, it doesn't take so much of my time to plan the thing, because I take a lot of notes. I come into those things with sometimes 6,000 to 10,000 words worth of notes, and in going unscripted, originally the idea was, well, since I don't have the time to write these things anymore, and frankly, I got burnt out on the written reviews quite a long time ago, and occasionally I could come back and do one, and I'd get jazzed about it again, but I had a hard time doing more than 6 or 8 of those a year, and I don't mean to be all quantity over quality, but at the same time, there's a lot of superhero movies. I mean, there's a lot of them, and I want to cover everything. I want to do something on every superhero movie ever made. I've always wanted to do that, and we've been committed to live streaming the last year. That's been going pretty well for us. I've become kind of addicted to it. As you can tell, I love streaming. I love interacting with you guys. I love making you guys a part of the whole thing. And anyway, what I discovered was I could do that weekly, but I was kind of killing myself over it. And that's why the last few weeks, when I've done one, they haven't been movie reviews. They've been discussion topics, and I'm going to do a discussion topic tonight as well. And those are fun, and I still want to do those, but obviously I want to do, more movie reviews than not. And over the last 6 months, I've covered maybe 3 or 4 superhero movies total. So it's exactly the same thing that was going on with Rewind, with scripted Rewind. I'm just not getting them out. I'm just not getting to them as often. And I'm a busy guy. I've got 5 kids. I have a lot of other things I want to cover on the channel as well. I'm trying to do more comic book content. I'm wanting to do more Power Ranger game stuff with the kids. Like I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things I want to do, and I've also got big projects coming up. I'm taking a couple weeks off next month to write the Superhero Rewind movie, which I'm still doing and is starting to really come together in my head. Jason and I have been breaking that story. We've got a lot of really interesting ideas for that. I think you guys are going to like it if it turns out anything like the way it is in my imagination. I'm talking about doing another documentary next year, so just a million irons in the fire. And the reason I called this career suicide with a question mark is I don't want to tank the channel over it. I don't want to run too many people off, but at the same time, I haven't really been doing the Rewind thing even unscripted often enough anyway. And if I'm doing them as commentaries, I know I can get that out weekly. It would be like the Marvel Manias were, except I'd be doing it like the last set of them, except I would do it every single week, and I would come in a little bit more prepared than I was for those. I'm not trying to be lazy. I just want to be able to do this stuff more often. And my plan for that is, because with Unscripted, I've been watching the movie twice. I've been taking copious amounts of notes. I've been watching a lot of special features and commentaries. I would still probably do the majority of all of that, except I just wouldn't write as much down. I just wouldn't take as many notes, and like I said, it would kind of streamline me a little bit. So I just wanted to brainstorm with you and get your input about what you think it should look like if I go this direction. I've not decided 100% for sure yet I'm doing that. And part of the thing that's been kind of difficult about it, and full disclosure, this is the way I want to do it, honestly. I think it would be a lot of fun. And part of the reason, I'm jumping all over the place, part of the reason I'm kicking this around is because one of the big frustrations with Rewind and with the Unscripted series has been, over 14 years, the series has been evolving and changing, and it's never been consistent. And wouldn't it be cool if we had a series that was uniform and the same all the way through? So what I'm talking about is a relaunch of Rewind as commentaries that would still be focused on story analysis, but would be a lot more laid back and a lot more fun, I think, because I go into those a lot less laid back than other things, and it just, I think it would be more fun for everybody, maybe, if we did it this way. But so as a relaunch, what I'm kicking around doing is basically starting over, and I would focus on primarily stuff I haven't done rewinds on, but I would also open up the request tier again for Rewind. It would be cheaper than it used to be because these aren't scripted, but it would be another tier on Patreon, and I would probably once or twice a month do a requested one. And the nice thing about it would be, it would open you guys up for anything, like things I've covered, things I haven't covered, like beyond whatever the first review would be. Sky's the limit. You guys could ask for anything. It would just have to be a superhero movie. If it counts in my definition of that, and it would have to be at least 2 years old, like I've always done with Rewind, and that would be it. I'm thinking about doing a new rating system. Finally going to a 5-point rating system, which people have wanted for a long time. If I started over, I would feel better about that. And one of the reasons I'm thinking about this too is because YouTube has just opened up a podcast section, and they're going to start having a dedicated area for featuring podcasts. And it is possible, if I start from scratch, that I could develop a new audience with this. And that's part of the reason I'm thinking about doing it too. And I would take this and I would put it on my podcast feed, and I would actually keep up with it week to week. It would be on Spotify. I might try to get it on Apple and other podcast places. And it would be, be basically a fresh start. And I know that that's crazy because I've done so many of these things, and also because I've done commentaries on quite a few things as well. So yeah, there'd be some repetition. Yeah, I would be saying some things that I have said before. But here's my argument for doing it this way. If we had this, I would be going back and covering stuff that I haven't talked about in 10 plus years. And I'm a different person now. I've had a lot more experiences. I know a lot more about superhero movies and narrative and movies in general, and I would have new things to say. Movies that I covered in the early days, I only did in a 10, 15, maybe 20-minute format, and a lot of those never got commentaries. So even though I have done several commentaries on movies I never did a rewind on, I've also done old rewinds for movies that never got commentaries. And so I always wanted to go in and do a commentary for every movie I ever reviewed on Rewind. And I wanted to do rewinds, of course, for all the stuff that we've done that I never got rewinds for. This would streamline it. This would make it one thing. And I know I could do one every week. Like I said, I would like to occasionally do discussion topics as well, but I might add those in as like an additional, special on like an afternoon or a weekend or something, and try to keep Mondays, and I would keep it on Monday, dedicated to just movies. And so as far as TV and that kind of stuff goes, I think this would strictly be movies. I wouldn't do maybe occasionally TV pilots and that kind of thing, but I'm doing a lot of marathons, and now we're doing these 24-hour streams for Smallville. We're covering TV in the commentary format quite frequently anyway, as it is. So I think we kind of have that covered, and I could really focus on the movie side. But anyway, I'm going to see what you guys are thinking. Ben Walters maybe combine rewind and commentary. That's exactly what I'm talking about doing. Bob Garland, why not do more general reviews in video form and maybe a novel of essay, superhero rewind, the novel kind of thing where you go in depth as an artist and free yourself a little bit? Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really understand the rewind novel idea. But if you're suggesting like scripted things, that was another direction I considered going. Like if I went all the way back to the beginning and did a rewind in the old like 10 to 15 minute form, would I maybe have the time to script one and be more polished? Yes, I actually think maybe I could do that if I could force myself to stay brief. But the problem is the diehards on the channel don't want me to be brief. And this is where it's really difficult finding the line between what I want to do, what you guys want, and what might bring us a new audience. I am in-depth guy, and I can still go in-depth in a commentary in a way that, of course, I can't do in a 10 to 15 minute video. And I feel like the commentary thing is a lot more unique than the standard video essay, where there's 1,000,001 people doing that. And I don't see as much in the way of commentaries. And if you look at the videos we have that have done the best, they are old scripted rewinds, and they are from earlier than 7-8 years ago, the majority of them, and then their commentaries. Now, one thing so that's why I'm talking about doing this instead of doing shorter scripted things. I think I would have more fun with it. I also think I'm a little bit concerned about getting burnout on that. I'm also trying to free myself up for more writing time for fiction and stuff, because again, full disclosure, I have been in a weird kind of dearth the last couple of years where I just haven't felt like writing, and I'm a writer, and I don't like that. It bothers me. Like, I feel weird even calling myself a writer right now. I haven't been writing, and I don't like that. And Rewind was my outlet for a long time, and honestly, like, after 200 of those or more, I wanted to do something else. I got kind of tired of writing the same thing over and over again, and I'm kind of looking at the writing on the wall, and forgive me, folks that have been happier with superhero movies lately more than I have been, but I'm concerned about movies that I'm going to have to, at some point, sit down and write a bunch of notes about, whether it's scripted or not, and do the, polished, like, story analysis thing, and I'm going, God, so many of these things are just really samey and thrown together and feel like they're put together in a factory, and a lot of these I just don't want to really give that treatment to. There's too many of them. But I don't mind sitting down and talking about them for a couple hours with a commentary, like I've always done. And it's gonna be tedious for some of this, because a lot of this, of course, I've covered in various ways before, but it would be an update. Like I said, a lot of these things I haven't done in a really long time. And something I meant to say earlier, I don't know how I'm 15 minutes in and I haven't said this yet, but one of the reasons it's been really difficult to decide what to do with this is because when I put my feelers out and did a poll about this a while back, it was a 50-50 split, which means half of the audience that wants superhero movie analysis from me was not happy with the Superhero Rewind Unscripted thing and would prefer that I just do commentaries. Thought that sounded like more fun. And like I said, I'm just killing myself over it, trying to get these things done. And I'm losing time that I could be spending with my family and stuff. And you might be saying, but Cap, you stream all the time. Yeah, but there's a business side to this as well. And I've become more of a streaming channel, of course, and that's where my bread and butter is monetarily as well. And obviously, I don't mean to make all of this about money, but I do have to think about that side of it as well. Like, it's my creative outlet. It's a thing that I do for fun. It's also my job. It's also my business. And it's crazy trying to keep your integrity up and think about it like a business as well. That's the difficult thing about it. So if I made it all about view count, I just couldn't. I just couldn't pay my bills, as it were. It's been. I'm tiptoeing around because, again, I don't want to make this just about money, and it isn't just about that. But I have to think about that as well. There is that component to it. So it's been 7 years since I had a rewind that cracked 100,000 views, and with ad revenue, that's not even with that many views. It doesn't do as well as a lot of my just my live streams. I do a lot better just streaming now. But I don't want to be lazy. I still want the quality to be good. I don't want it to suck, but I have to think about that side of it as well. And speaking of that, there are some super chats, and I'll go ahead and cover those here in a second. But yeah, 50-50 split. So I'm like, okay, well, you're clearly not going to make everybody happy. The only thing you could do is do a analysis with notes that takes hours to watch a 2-hour movie. And I enjoy the process, don't get me wrong. There's just not enough hours in my week. I actually have been really happy with that product, and I've really been enjoying making those. But I haven't been able to get them out. Anytime I take a trip, I can't do one because I get back too late on a Sunday night, and then I haven't watched the movie more than once, if at all, and then I have to do all my note-taking in the afternoon. My girls go down for a 2-hour nap. That's like the window I've got. And then maybe if Jason gets his schoolwork done, he can take care of them. I got to drive kids around in the evening. I don't mean to get too personal, but I got a lot going on. And so, but I also want to keep, I want to keep doing this. I want to talk about superhero movies on a weekly basis. That was always the idea, and this is a way to do that. So yeah, the 50-50 thing was crazy. It made my brain explode. I've gotten a lot of advice. Well, Cap, just do what you want to do. Don't worry about us so much. And I am trying to take that advice, which is why I'm leaning toward going ahead and doing this, because it's the way I want to do it. But I am more than open to your feedback about it as well, and it was just in my head all day yesterday, and I needed to get this out, and that's why I'm making this video. So thanks for a lot for indulging me. Bright Burns, $5 super chat. Thanks so much. Personally, I like the review live streams you did with Austin for Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, and I kind of want more of that, please. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another huge question, which is, should I and can I get away with doing this without a co-host? Because Superhero Rewind has always, by and large, been me by myself. And my instinct is to try to do these commentaries alone, but I also don't know if that's the smartest way to go. I don't know if I need a co-host. I don't know if I should try to bring in Austin or somebody else. But like he and I are already doing 2 shows a week, and I'm not going to ask him to do a third one. So if he was interested in this, I would have to sacrifice him on the request probably. And I don't know that we haven't talked about this. I don't know that he'd prefer to do this even over the request. To be honest with you, I know there's some superhero movies he doesn't want to have to sit down and watch and think about. But I've considered that too. If I made it just a discussion show, I would have to bring somebody else in. Because doing it on my own, I've got to have something of a plan. I have done them completely off the cuff with no notes whatsoever before, with no plan at all. And I get through it, and it's okay, but it's nerve-wracking. Just like not knowing where you're going to go and trying to still make it a product and make it interesting. And I've had a couple times where I just didn't have the time, or I was experimenting. I think the Doctor Strange review, I did that way. I came in with no notes whatsoever. And if you go listen to that review, I think it's okay. I mean, it's a little scatterbrained, but I think it's hard to tell that that's how I did that. That is harder than taking the time to do all the notes, to be honest with you. That takes a lot out of you. And I don't know, I would just rather like kind of make you guys the other co-host if I didn't have one. Avatar Desto, $5 super chat. Don't really have a question, but wanted to show some support. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being on some shows lately. He's been commenting quite a bit. The other thing I meant to mention that I'm thinking about doing with this, and part of the reason I'm thinking about basically starting over, not that, I mean, all those rewinds will still be there. You can still listen to them. I did it for 200 movies plus, so almost half of the complement of superhero movies that exist have scripted rewinds, or you know, the off-the-cuff thing with a lot of notes. But one thing I'm considering doing too is writing, and you guys won't see these yet, but writing short reviews after I watch these movies and do this exercise, and putting together a superhero rewind kind of movie guidebook. This is a thing I've wanted to do for years, and the problem with it is you got to go back and rewatch everything. And if I'm getting regular content out of it, maybe I can do that. So it would be like 200 to 300 word kind of like flash reviews that would be in a big book that you'd be able to, you know, reference any superhero movie ever made. And it is kind of the idea. I don't know if it would just be live action. I don't know if I'd put animated movies in it as well. I don't know if I'd do it in multiple volumes, or if I would take several years to write it before I finally put it out. But they'd have trivia. I'd have kind of quizzes for every movie, because I've always wanted to do a trivia book. And I did one at one point that I was going to do a series of them, and it didn't sell super well, but I still love the idea of doing a trivia book, and so I would add that into this whole thing. And yeah, it would be just kind of a reference guide to superhero movies with my own opinions and spin, and kind of, you know, snarky synopses of the movies. And like that I could probably write on a weekly basis and then compile it together and put it in a review while I'm doing this with you guys. CM Productions, $2 Super Chat, new commentary on Batman 89. That is actually what I'm considering starting with. And I was thinking about, partly just because it's funny, I think that would be my 12th commentary on 89. It'd be really funny. It would, for those of you that have been with me a long time, it would really give you a sense of what I'm doing, because, oh, okay, so he's doing multiple commentaries now on some of these movies. He's starting with 89, which he's already got a crazy amount of commentaries for. It is Bat March. I thought about doing it tonight and starting this whole thing, but I decided it was premature. I decided I needed to talk it out first and decide for sure if this was really how I wanted to handle it. And look, I know some folks will be disappointed if this is the direction I go with this. It's also not to say that like down the line I'll never like do more scripted videos of some kind. It probably wouldn't be Rewind again, but I have a lot of ideas for kind of documentary type videos and kind of what do you call it, video essays and that kind of thing. And I've just been, you know, rot creatively, writing-wise for a long time. That's why I've been putting all my efforts into the live streaming thing. which has been really cathartic and has helped a lot, and I've really been enjoying it. But I think I mentioned this before. I want to do a documentary on the history of the Tick. That's one I'm kicking around, and I've got other ideas as well. So, really polished, complicated videos like that. Eventually, I would like to make some of those again, but like not have to worry about a deadline and be able to just really put my all into them. Because what's been difficult about this show, even unscripted, has been I just feel like I'm always rushing. I never feel satisfied when I sit down that I've done all the work I want to do with them. And I don't mean to settle too much, it's just commentaries are a different thing. And I'm happy with those when I make them most of the time. I know how to do that, and I know how to do it well and regularly. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm having to like really be defensive and give you guys like the best arguments I can for why I'm thinking about doing this, because I feel really lazy wanting to do it, but I can't get off of it. I really want to do it like this. And then I'm looking at comments, and you guys seem really supportive, and I really appreciate that. Senior Sticks, we understand, Cap. Ben Walters, do what you feel is right, Cap. And don't think, by the way, that I came in this afternoon hoping for a bunch of validation. If everybody hated this, it would be really good to know that, and that's part of why I'm doing this as well. Nightmare Room Entertainment is a name I don't recognize. Welcome. Hi there. I'd say call them rewind commentaries. That way you can go back to the essay format if you ever feel the need. That's an excellent idea. I would probably put, I was thinking that, I probably would put commentary in the title. I've got this Rewind Unscripted logo that I like, and I may just ask DJ to like change the word unscripted to commentaries or something, or I might talk to him about making a totally brand new logo for it. I'm not sure yet. Again, I don't have all this figured out and finalized, which is why I'm talking to you guys this afternoon. So, pardon me for being so scatterbrained about it, but I feel a lot better just talking about it, honestly, because it was preoccupying me to the point where I was having a hard time getting any work done today, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to sit down and talk to you guys, because I need to be reviewing comics, but I was thinking about, and names is a question. Like, is it just generically Superhero Rewind commentaries? I thought about calling it the Superhero Rewind Commentary Podcast, which is lengthy. But any other ideas that folks have for titles would be cool. I even thought about calling it, like Superhero Rewind would be in the title, but then in the thumbnail, it would say commentary, like my commentaries always do. And then I would number them. This is an idea I had, where the whole idea would be Captain Logan makes a commentary track that you can listen to for every superhero movie ever made, eventually. Or at least as many of them as I can get to before, I'm no longer with us, or for some reason I can't do the YouTube thing anymore. And I would number them like track 1, track 2. So they'd be commentary tracks. So the title would say, let's say like Deadpool, it would just say like Deadpool, and then it would have a line, and then it would say Superhero Rewind Track 1. It wouldn't even say commentary because you already have that in the thumbnail. That was a thought. Kicking around a lot of different ways to do this, though. Right, said Ralph. Of course, if you like what you're doing, it will come across in the content. I really appreciate that. Senior Sticks, you need a mod or a co-host. Do folks agree with that? That is a question. Because if I only have to rely on myself, it's so much easier to know for sure that I can do it every week. Now, having said that, Austin, with very, very rare exception, has been with me every single week since I started doing the request format for that show. And DJ is there with me for every Captain Logan show. But I don't want to ask either of those guys to do too much more, and I know DJ wouldn't want to do this because there'd be too many movies he wasn't interested in talking about. If I had to pick a co-host, Austin would be the obvious choice, I think. And like I said, I haven't talked to him about this, but do I want to lose him on the request show? Do I want to have to do that by myself? I don't know. And then the other question is just, would the audience want to lose the tradition of me on my own talking about this stuff? That's a question as well. Hayden Spring, I do that with commentaries constantly. If I've seen the movie, I can visualize it well enough to follow along. Maybe that's just me. No, I hear from, that's part of why I wanted to do this as well, is that it would be a discussion and a partial analysis of the movie while watching it. And I would, basically, you can use the movie as a cheat sheet. You don't have to take as many notes because you're looking at it. And so you can respond to things as they come up, and a just very clear organization happens as you're looking at it. And I hear from people all the time that they don't actually watch the movie while they're listening to the commentary. And I think at one point we found out that just through a poll that it was a staggering, like, I don't know, 10 or 15% was all of people that actually watched the movie along with this. Maybe it would be more for regular superhero movies. I don't know, because obviously we do a lot more other things. Mr. Cool, $11 Canadian. Thanks, man. Not the biggest idea, the commentary idea personally. And you and I have talked about this before, and I knew you would be one of the folks that didn't like this idea. But he says, I want you to do what you want, but this limits your time to talk and takes away just being able to listen to it. Do what you want, though. Yeah. And I certainly worry about that. But the trade-off is, like I said, I would be able to do them regularly, and it would free me up to... It would free me up to be able to do some other things I want to do as well, not just on the channel, but also just, personal life stuff. I don't mean to keep moving the goalpost with this, but I also want to land on something that I'm comfortable with doing more or less forever. And like I said, I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but the most appealing idea, or the most appealing thing for me with this idea is I finally would have uniformity. And it wouldn't have to ever change after the first episode. It could look exactly the same from start to finish. One thing I'm thinking about doing, and Mr. Cool, I, of course, respect your opinion, and a lot of people share it, because it was a 50-50 split down the line. But also, if you look at the view counts between commentaries and this unscripted format, even the most popular movies that I've done in that format over the last year, and because it's been about that long since I've been doing it this way, and the ones that have gotten the most views for us, don't eclipse a lot of podcast numbers. And that means that a lot of people either prefer or are just fine with the podcast thing. And I also heard from a lot of people, or not a lot, but I should say, some of the comments on that post were folks saying, I mean, I'd prefer the current format, but I don't actually care that much. I'll look at it either way, which is really cool of folks. Everybody's talking about the tick thing. The history of the tick story, the tick is ticky. So actually, my plan for that, when I eventually get it made, is to call it the nigh complete history of the tick, because the tick is nigh invulnerable. AMC, so chat, feeling it or not feeling it? Yeah, that's the question. Dimwit Monkey, whatever you want to do, man, you can always go back if you want, and that's true too. I mean, this wouldn't ruin anything. Maybe it would waste some folks' time, particularly with movies that I've already done commentaries on that I'm going to do this with as well. I worry about that a little bit. Superhero Rewind Live. I mean, it's already been live for a while, so I'm not sure if I'd call it that. Dimwit Monkey, whatever. Oh, pardon me, I already read that. Brian Penegua. Thanks, man. I missed the pre-recorded commentaries. Discussion was more interesting, and they have more replay value. That's fair, and some folks certainly agree with you as well. It has been, I mean, I don't want to keep giving you defensive arguments. There's a lot of reasons that I've been doing it this way, partly just because I've been enjoying the streaming thing and getting a live feedback right away. One of the main reasons that I do most everything this way now is if I get something wrong, I know about it right away. There's almost always somebody in the comments that goes, "Yeah, Kappa, that's incorrect," and also I learn a lot. People will leave comments after the fact, and I used to get a lot more comments before I was live streaming. That's something I've learned about streams, is that you don't get as many comments after the fact. But I learn a lot more in the moment, and a lot of people will leave a string of live comments that are like, there's almost always an expert in the crowd on whatever it is I'm talking about. And I'll get a lot more information from them while I'm streaming. So that's part of the reason I do it too. Mr. Cool 550, I mean, I'll still watch, just giving my 2 cents, and it's much appreciated. So long as you're talking about superhero movies, that's all I care about, always entertaining. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I also just feel a lot more relaxed and loose doing it in that format. But anyway. Bob Garland, so you're going to do a commentary on Son of the Mask? Yeah, eventually. Like I said, even if I kept with the unscripted format, I would, or the not commentary format, I guess I should say, I wanted to eventually do a podcast on, or a commentary, excuse me, on every movie that I did a rewind on. So yeah, I would have to sit down and watch that again. And there are some movies that I thought I would never have to deal with again, and I was relieved by that, and that won't be the case now if I go to this. Like I said, I would, when I'm picking myself, I would go towards stuff that I haven't actually done rewinds on. And then you guys, when you gotta pick, would get to choose things that I've done before, and we'd have a nice mix of those things. So a lot of it would be revisited without having to call it that, because it would be the first time I'm doing it in this particular series, whatever we end up calling it. OAW, how would the commentaries differ from the Marvel Mania videos? Well, if I'm by myself, it would be me talking the whole time, and I would have very little dead air. It would be, like I said, somewhat, some of it would be, pardon me, story analysis, but it wouldn't be as, what's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't, it would be certainly more haphazard than the reviews were, just because I would be responding to what I was looking at to some degree, but the focus would still be on story over anything else, and it, you know, I would have fun. There, I'm sure, be a little bit of comedy in it, but it wouldn't be as jokey as the Mania commentaries. It would be a lot more formal than those, so it would be more informal than what I've been doing lately, but I wouldn't get up in the middle of a commentary and go to McDonald's and get a hamburger or something, you know. I wouldn't have gimmicks. There wouldn't be, you know, Jenga towers being built and you know, silly, fun things like that. It would be a lot more business, but it would also be a great deal more laid back than what I've been doing. And if I had another person with me, it would be, you know, certainly closer to the Manias, especially the last Marvel Mania set of those, because DJ and I did watch those ahead of time, which Eric and I were not doing. So it would be closer to that, but we would come in prepared. And also, I would come in much more prepared than I usually am for commentaries, because, or at least that's my plan. If I've got the time, I would sit down and do more research than I usually do. And you know, I'd read up on stuff more. I would try to watch the movie at least once, if not twice, and I would watch special features and commentaries if there were commentaries. So it would be more informative, I guess. This is my point. I would spend whatever the length of the movie was, being informative and giving an analysis and constructive criticism, like I always do. So it would be focused on the same things that Rewind has always been focused on, but it would be a more finite thing that I would have to do within the length of the movie. Rewind Reloaded, Rewind Resurrections, those are both amusing and don't sound terrible, actually, either of them. Dimwit Monkey, it's important to note that the draw of your channel, for the most part, is you and your friends. Yeah, I have my favorites, but most of us like you and your channel. Also comics sometimes. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I realize that as well. But that's not to say that, of course, everything I put out does really well just because it's me, and I have to think a little bit about the content and where the interest is, especially if I'm going to devote a night of my life every week to doing this. Hayden Spring, have you ever thought about continuing Batmania with the things that have come out since, mostly animated? I don't know. I actually haven't thought about it. I don't know if there's enough to do a whole show again. Are there even as many as 10 more since the last time we did Batmania? There might be. It's not a bad idea, but I might wait a couple more years. Super Billy, I prefer the Rewind commentaries to be solo ventures, and that's the direction I'm considering at the moment. The only thing I'm worried about is that there would be more dead air if I've got to fill it the whole way through, but I've gotten so used to talking by myself on camera that I am well aware, again, just full disclosure, the live stream, I am well aware that I have a difficult time not accidentally interrupting people. I have a really hard time not taking over and having a million things that come to my mind when somebody says something. I'm the worst listener on the planet, and the show might be more watchable if it's just me, just because there's a pressure in it having the word rewind in it to get everything out that I feel like I'm expected to say. And I'm afraid of stepping on people if I had somebody in it with me. And it's a problem I have even with your regular videos that I usually have co-hosts on. It's a huge issue for me and something I've been working on real hard lately. But I'm still not great at it. Mr. Cool, the Snyder Cut will be a crazy rewind commentary. That's true, and I'll get 4 hours to talk about it. That's the other thing too, is that you have the problem with talking about something for the length of the movie is that you'll have shorter movies that are dense, and there's so much that you want to say about them, and you've only got 80, 90, 100 minutes to talk. And then you have something like the Snyder Cut, which is 4 hours, and that feels like way more time than I need, probably. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll have to go back and look at all of these titles, although I'm not sure how many of them are jokes and how many of them are legitimate suggestions. OAW, so no guest stars. I mean, maybe occasionally, and maybe I would do guest stars more often for like the discussion topic videos, which I would still put under that banner. But like I said, I'm thinking even with that would be an additional video that would come out another time in the week, and I wouldn't take up a Monday for it. I really like the idea of 52 more or less commentaries a year on superhero movies. And, no matter how much time I've actually really got to prepare for them, because even if I can't start getting ready for one until the day of, I mean, I guess it somewhat depends on what the movie is, but most things I feel like I could still probably get away with that, especially because of how much of the stuff I've already talked about. Now, I should also mention, I will continue, of course, doing, like how we felt about the discussions on superhero movies when they first drop. So you'll get a long discussion on a movie, like first reactions, spoiler cast type thing, when these things first come out. There will still be multiple videos on these movies. And like a lot of folks were suggesting, this never precludes the possibility of my sitting down and doing a full-on analysis for something if I really want to. And I should consider that too, where like if there's something that I just have a lot more to talk about and I want to sit down and take my time and maybe over several weeks take a lot of notes and do a full-on analysis, whether it's unscripted or scripted, obviously it's my channel, I can do that if I want to, and I should certainly consider that. But guys, there are movies I just don't want to give that treatment to. Like Teen Titans Go to the Movies, I kind of wish I could have just done a commentary on that and that I didn't have to do the full-on analysis thing for it. OAW Rewind the New 52. Oh, that's interesting. That's it. But then I would have to commit to 52 a year. If I called it that, that's actually a really great title. But if I called it that and I miss one, I'm sunk. Like, I can't get away with that. But I mean, I guess if I missed a Monday, I could just put it on a different time of the week and make sure I get it out. But I don't know how smart that is. I feel like I'm just digging my own grave if I called it that. Senior Six, what happened to Dan's news? He got busy with life stuff, and I haven't talked to him in a few months, to be honest with you. Occasionally, I'll hear from him. He'll pop in a live stream and say hi, or I'll get a text message from him, but we haven't talked in a little while, and I really want to bring him back for Bamisphere or something else. If he's, I think he might have gotten a little bit burnt out on that show, honestly. Like, we were having a lot of fun with it, but the last couple times I talked to him and we either did a video or talked about doing a video, he was like, let's just chat about stuff, because we don't see each other often enough. So I think he kind of wants to broaden it and talk about some other things. But I don't want to put words in his mouth. I mean, we could at some point come back and do another one of those. We did 10, and those are, good 2-3 hour conversations. So I think we had a good run for that show, even if we never make another one. Daniverse, Dan's news is not old news. I love Dan's. Hopefully I can get him to come back at some point. OAW, DC missed deadlines all the time. That is true. Jonathan Campbell, personally, I don't mind if there's a co-host or not. I'd just rather Austin not leave request. Yeah, I'd rather he not either, because it is easier to motivate myself on a weekly basis to do that show if I've got somebody to talk to talk about those with. Sometimes, and this is nothing against anybody, it's just sometimes you'll get a thing that either you didn't care for and it's not as much fun to talk about, and then you get Austin in and it's always fun. Or you get something that's just really daunting, where you're like, I'm afraid I can't do this justice on one watch. And having another person helps to fill in the blanks, because the point of that is a response after one watch, but I often don't feel qualified, and it's much easier to keep my confidence up doing that with a co-host. I worry about that a little bit with this, but again, having the thing in front of me and responding to it as I'm watching. I'm not talking about blind commentaries, of course. I will prepare for these. I just won't be as over-prepared as I have been. I'm going to read a few more comments and then go ahead and get going. Hayden Spring, I have a little bit of a mental block where I have a hard time watching something that was live I wasn't there for. Yeah, I get that. You're not alone. I think a lot of people have that. I think maybe it's FOMO. It's why I only get to see half of Captain Logan shows. Well, I'm sorry about that, Hayden. I don't know. It's just when I'm, again, full disclosure, part of the reason I go live now for most things also is it forces me to stay here. Some of you guys have heard me say this before. I did the first 3 or 4 unscripted rewinds pre-recorded, and they took forever to shoot because I was a perfectionist. And when you shoot live, you can't be a perfectionist. Like, I've had some tongue-twisting issues live streaming right now this afternoon. I've said a lot. I've stopped myself mid-sentence and tried to reformulate what I want to say. I can't stop. I'm live streaming. It would be very rude if I just shut down on you guys right now. And when I'm pre-recording something, and it's difficult even with the pre-recorded comic reviews, I will start over 150 times sometimes. I'll just keep, like, I didn't like that start, or I get 5 minutes in and I'm not feeling it, I don't love what I'm doing. And with the rewinds, I could keep going and just start in different sections. I didn't have to start all over, of course, because I could edit it, but then it made the editing process take a long time as well. And so that's a lot of why, that's another reason that I've been doing the live streaming thing. Kind of forces you to stick around. Mr. Cool, oh God, when you get to the lighthouse, another $6 super chat, thank you. That will be crazy too. Don't know if I prefer podcast or commentary for that. Yeah, that's one of the few requests that I have left for a rewind. And if I go to this, I will do the rest of them in in commentary format. And I will say, I don't know if I'm going to take requests for non-superhero commentaries at this point for this show, because I want to do all the superhero movies. So I want to really focus on that and be limited about it. So what I'm thinking about doing is at the $15 request tier, just giving people the option. If you really want to see a commentary, Austin and I will do that instead. And I don't know if I would put that at that same tier, because it would take a little bit more
prep, or they, we'd have maybe not more prep, but well, sometimes to get enough in to say, like, if you don't know the movie very well and you got to sit down and do a commentary, it's more difficult, certainly. So we'd probably actually do a little bit more prep, but also they just take longer to shoot. Even though we already go an hour and a half, but sometimes you'll do a movie like The Lighthouse that's at least a couple hours long. I think that's even longer, isn't it? Isn't that like 2.5 hours? I forget. I seem to recall that being kind of long, but it's been 3 years since I've seen it. But anyway, so that's the thing I was kicking around, doing a tier above the request tier. And don't hold me to this because this could change, but my thinking right now is that we have a $15 request tier. This would be like a probably $30 request tier, but you would get both. So if you did a request for that tier, you'd get a rewind request, and in addition, you'd get a request. And then if you wanted a commentary for, say, like a science fiction film or something instead of something for Superhero Rewind, we would do that on a request night, and that would be at that $30 tier. That's kind of what I'm kicking around right now, and wouldn't mind feedback on that as well. But again, don't hold me to that. You're not going to see Patreon suddenly update this afternoon. I don't know what I'm doing with that yet, but that's what I'm kicking around right now. That's what was going through my brain as I was driving through Oklahoma and Missouri yesterday. 123 Rock fan for a sec. I thought this video was going to be the stuff surrounding Jonathan Majors. Oh yeah, fair enough. No, I picked something admittedly sort of clickbaity, but I thought it was kind of a funny title because I don't know, like it might be to some degree, at least for some folks, like, oh no, Cap's not doing his. Sorry, I'm distracted by my kids playing around upstairs. Oh no, Cap's not doing his regular, story analysis for Rewind. It's all over now. He's just doing commentaries. He's sold out. He's sold out. But again, if you go all the way back, the commentaries have very often done pretty well for us, and it's some of the stuff I hear the most about. There are like marathons that we've done that I've heard people say I watched that not just once but several times, and I'm like, that's crazy, and what a compliment. And I just have a lot of fun making stuff like that. Hey, in spring, Doomsday Cap is when you review Doomsday Clock, and you'll be so mad you quit YouTube. Yes, somebody almost requested that, and I think at one point I had a request for it, and the person retracted it and asked for something different. Slipmaker, when I watch something live I wasn't there for, I always mentally type out comments to join the conversation, then remember it's not live and I missed the boat. Yeah, hilarious. Another thing that I've kicked around doing if I could find the time, but again, editing right now is kind of dicey, just because it takes a lot of time, and the time I have to work on the channel, I've mostly been actually streaming. And then, what little time I have left, I'm watching stuff and reading things in preparation. I had to read 800 pages last week for Night Quest. That was a 3-hour video, and I felt like we still didn't talk about everything. But anyway, one thing I've also kicked around doing is kind of like supercuts of some of the streams that you could listen to, highlights that are maybe half an hour or less, instead of the whole stream that's got some dead air here and there, and you wouldn't hear me respond to questions as much as just talking about things. I thought it might be amusing to do those for the Smallville streams especially, and kicking around maybe doing that. But that's something else I could do. Maybe I wouldn't get them out the same week as these. Like, I wouldn't have to have a deadline. I could just do them when I got to them. But it might be fun to have kind of a supercut of the Rewind commentaries, and then, so it would sort of look like a review, and maybe I would go back to the old stills format, because even if it got flagged or the video got taken down, you'd still have the original. And it would kind of suck if I did all that work and you couldn't see it, but at least the video was there and I did the stream. And again, I make more money these days with the streams anyway. So this would just be gravy. This would just be another piece of content for folks. I hate the word content. I got to stop saying that. But it would be another thing for people to watch and enjoy, and maybe if they prefer the old format, it would be at least closer to that, and maybe I'd come back and do the stills with that if I could edit it in such a way where it felt polished enough. But I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it would be any good, but that's also a thing I've thought about doing. I have a lot of ideas. Chewbacca's Lover, so Superhero Rewind is canceled. AMC, nobody wants to turn it into a commentary series. Yeah, and for some people, that's going to mean it's canceled. And I get that. But again, Chewbacca's Lover, I don't want to reiterate everything that I just said, and I've been going for almost an hour, so I'm going to get going. But I'm basically talking about relaunching it as weekly commentaries because I know I can do that every week in a way I have not been able to get even the unscripted format out with the sheer amount of notes I have to take for that show. And I'm thinking about basically starting over and doing a new commentary for everything eventually. And I know that's crazy. There's a lot of stuff that I'm a little bit worried that I've already said everything I have to say about them. But hopefully, enough time has gone by that new things will come to me as I give things fresh watches. And I will say this too. Part of the reason I'm considering that is because a lot of the things I get requests for most often are, I don't mean official requests, just people saying, hey, would you ever do this, are revisited things, are things that I talked about on Rewind a million years ago, and they're like, hey, do an update, talk about that again. So there are movies that, because it's been so long since I did a rewind on them, and even a commentary, sometimes people go, I mean, I know you talked about that, but could we do it again? And it would be, some of those things would be really interesting to go back and revisit, I think. AMC says I'm name myself, but we'll watch whatever. Well, I appreciate that. Again, I can't make everybody happy, and I know that this is a total 50-50 split. Some of you guys will really like this idea. Some of you guys won't, and I kind of want to try it. And like somebody said earlier, the nice thing is if it doesn't work out, if they don't do very well, or if I can't keep up with it the way I think I can, there's nothing stopping me from going back. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I'm not even talking about, because I want to keep up with the podcast feed finally, and I'm not even thinking about starting a brand new feed. I think I would just make it clear that the show is relaunched, but put it in the same feed I've got already on Spotify. Chewbacca's Lover, will you watch the films before you do the commentary? You can miss stuff if you just do the commentary. No, I will be prepared for these. That's the idea. It's kind of best of both worlds. Chewbacca's Lover, will Ultimate Avengers be done that way? See, this is the reason I think ultimately some of you guys, even if you're not thrilled with this idea, might come around on it if I do it. And this is not me trying to give you a big pitch, and I understand it if you hate this idea. I really do. Because it sounds like fun to do, but I don't know how much fun it will be to watch. I hope it will work out. But Chewbacca's Lover, yes, eventually I would do that, and I would open up the request here so you could request it if you wanted to, and then get it in earlier. Those requests, by the way, wouldn't take forever to fulfill, because if I get a lot of takers on it, I'll just be careful about how many I let stack up, of course. But if I do like 2 that way a month, and there's not a crazy amount of people that do it, I'll be able to keep up with them. And because I'll be doing it every single week, and I will be starting from scratch, which means you'll be able to ask for anything under the sun, superhero movie wise, and that's very exciting, I think. Mr. Cool, the more I think, the more I'm kind of warming up to the idea. Well, thanks, and I mean, we'll see if it works if I end up doing it. I am Hayden Spring. I mean, I listened to the first wave on Mania constantly, so I'm down for it. Yeah, those were more popular than a lot of rewinds, and I get that it's not just me. People really like the rapport that I had with Eric, and some of those we think people clicked on them because they thought it was something other than what it was. So I'm not naive about this. I can't take too much credit for Blade 2 getting 220,000 views. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know why so many people showed up for that. I don't think it was us. I think people thought for some reason it was the movie and clicked on it and were disappointed, especially if you look at the thumbs down ratio. Back when you could look at that, people thought that was something else when they clicked on it. But there still was a lot more interest in that show than a lot of other things we've made. And I know it's not just the crazy view counts where people were clicking on it for some other reason, because I still hear about that show. People on live streams and messaging me privately, I hear a lot about Marvel Mania. And this would be kind of like that, but a little bit more, a lot more prepared, certainly. Still more laid back than your standard rewind or even the unscripted rewind, but a little bit more, I don't know, scholarly, for lack of a better word, than the Manias were. AMC, no chance of just cranking out summarized pre-recorded rewinds about the length of Not Spawn Year. Like I said, I thought about it, but I just don't think that's what most of, at least, our regular audience wants from me. And like I said earlier, not to put too fine a point on it, but there's not enough of an incentive for me, I don't think, because, I mean, it would be cool to have that product. They would be polished, and I could bring stills back and stuff, but like the problem I had before with the old Rewind show, and the reason I had to go audio only, you don't know if you're going to be able to monetize, you don't know if they're going to get blocked, so that's a problem. And I mean, like, I could just go on camera and read into a script, but I've never liked doing that. I don't like what it looks like. And then the problem is and then the problem is, again, not to put too fine a point on it, I don't make any money on those, and they still take a lot of work, even to do, that kind of thing, and I'm afraid I'd get burnt out on it. Bob the Hun, what about the Super Chat rewards from the DCAU 24-hour live stream? Hit me up privately, Bob the Hun, because I don't remember what I owe you. I sent out, finally, and they should come in about a week. The couple of folks that I owed prints to, I got those sent out finally. But I don't remember if you won something from the last stream. I've got mugs to ship out, and I haven't heard from either of the people that won that. So hit me up on email about that. Super Billy solo commentaries followed by short pre-written reviews. No longer than 10 minutes, and with scripts based on most important points made during said commentaries to accelerate the writing process. That's not a bad idea either, but like I said, I'm thinking about basically doing that, making a book out of it. So I don't know if I would want to post those, because I've always wanted like a Superhero Rewind coffee table book. And so I'm thinking about writing those. They'd be probably a little bit shorter than what you're saying, and then just hanging on to them and compiling them in a book. But that could also be a video instead. Like I said, I'm just spitballing. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're not talking about stuff to ship. You're talking about sorry. So I did a live stream. Pardon me. I did a 24-hour stream where I let people pick revisited rewinds, and yes, I'll do those in this format if we end up doing this format. I already announced The Shadow, and I've never done a commentary on that, so that would be one of the first of these. But the first thing will probably be Batman, I'm thinking. AMC, unless that's what you do in addition to what you're planning. Either way, I'm sure it'll be good. Well, I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I mean, these are all good ideas. Okay, I'm over an hour. I don't know how I talk about anything that long, but that's how it goes with me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate all the feedback, and I will go back in and look at all the comments that I didn't respond to. Feel free to leave comments after the fact as well. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me any ideas you have, be it for the title of it, be it for anything with the format. I wanted to kind of give you all the various parts of it that I'm considering. And I know that this was real disjointed and all over the place. I didn't write any of these ideas down. I was just kind of spitballing. Real quick before I go, I told you guys that I was thinking about a new rating system, and I was thinking about doing like a 5-point rating system. Tell me what you think about this, or if you think this is too gimmicky. But I wanted to... Oh, by the way, I'll start a new ranking as well. Because the ranking for the letterbox ranking I've been doing is real all over the place. It's kind of jacked up. I don't like what it looks like. So I'd be starting that from scratch, which would be really fun the first 2 episodes, because it'll be like, is this movie better than this movie? And that's all it'll be. But the rating system I'm thinking about doing would be a 5-point thing, and it would be like based on superheroes and supervillains. So like a 4 would be a superhero, and a 2 would be a villain, and then right in the middle would be a sidekick. So if you had just a plain Jane, it's fine, but it's not great kind of movie, I would call that a sidekick. And then your tip top, like cream of the crop, a 5 would be a legend. And the worst thing imaginable, like probably a Son of the Mask or a Turbo or something, would be a 1. I wouldn't give zeros now. Would be at the very bottom, and a 1 would be an arch nemesis. That's the scale I'm thinking about. Not married to any of this, but that's what I'm kicking around right now. Chewbacca's lover, would you look at Ultimate Avengers before you do Ultimate Avengers? Oh, Ultimates again before you do Ultimate Avengers. I don't expect you to read it again, but could you skim through it again? Anything based on comics like that, if I have time, I will at least go back and skim the material, or at least read synopses and stuff to refresh myself on it. I definitely want to do that on Dark Knight Returns when I finally get to that. So yeah, there's still going to be a fair amount of research and stuff, but I still think I can do it on a weekly basis in a way I haven't been able to if I do it this way. Okay, I'm going to get going. I appreciate your time, folks. And this was a very important cathartic exercise for me. I wasn't even sure if I should sit down and do this, or if I should just make plans, decide what I'm doing, and roll it out. But I'm really glad that I did this, because I'm feeling better about the whole idea, talking to you guys about it. And even the folks that aren't, that don't immediately love this, it sounds like people are open to it, which is very helpful to know about. Mr. Cool, I like going up to 5 out of 5, but it feels too game showy. Game showy? Okay. Hayden Spring, Cap, if anything, is an aspiring game show host, so that works for me. That's funny. I'm gonna get going. Thanks again, guys. Tonight, I'm gonna do a rewind. Speaking of a rewind unscripted on Batman movie trailers, and I'm gonna be doing these totally blind. So this will be kind of a reaction video. I'm gonna talk about 11 trailers. Can you believe we've had that many theatrical Batman movies? I'm going to talk about the main trailers, and we might throw some teasers in there too. I don't know yet. But I'm going to be watching trailers, some of these for the first time in years and years, and like in the theater when I was a kid, which will be cool. And I'm going to respond to them and talk about how effective or not the marketing seems to be with those things. And like I said, this one won't be prepared at all, because I thought it would be kind of fun to watch these together and just get our in-the-moment responses to them. So this one will be real laid back, but it should be a lot of fun. So I hope you join me for that. I meant to say this earlier. Part of the reason I also am thinking about going to this format is I've been working on notes and research and stuff up to the wire with the show almost every single time, and I'm for the reviews anyway. and that's up till 10 o'clock, and then I'm up late, and these days, I do the late videos with Austin, but, other than those couple of nights, I don't stay up super late during the week, and so it's kind of difficult to do those shows, and I'll be insanely tired when I'm trying to do, complex story analysis. So I really want to do that show earlier. And if I do this format, I think I can do it at 8 instead of 10. So I'm going to do that tonight, and then when I start doing the show, if this is indeed the format, I'm going to do it at 8 o'clock on Monday instead of 10, and hopefully more folks will be able to come for that as well, because that late at night on a Monday during the week is kind of crazy, and I've never liked that time slot anyway. I'm going to go now. Thanks for watching. I hope to see some of you guys later. Bye, everybody.